You may have heard of it. I wrote a book called The Democrat Party Hates America. I have to say, it predicted a whole lot of what's taking place today. I came across an article in the New York Post over the weekend that was so horrendous. I, by use of text and email, must have sent it to 100, 120 people in radio and TV and elsewhere, even on the Hill. And each one of them was appalled. And I told them, please use it. Please spread the word. You know, I'm the cleanup hitter here on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Friday, and I have my 2 Fox shows, but still, during the week, cleanup hitter's number 4. And it's an article that explains what we've been talking about now for years. I've been in this business now a long, long time. Although it doesn't seem that way. And I've known about Joe Biden a long time. I've known about our immigration issues a long time. You and I together have prevented a lot of bad immigration legislation from being passed, including under George W. Bush. But what's happening now is not about passing legislation. What's happening now is about the tyrannical acts of Joe Biden. The vast majority of what's being done to our country has no statutory or constitutional basis, quite the contrary. He uses executive orders, he uses regulations, he uses memos, he uses directives and fiats of various kinds, and he's destroying our country. He's destroying our country. And I view him as sitting in the Oval Office with his staff and his campaign people, perhaps on the speakerphone, all of them looking for ways in every department, in every agency, in every corner of the federal government, looking for ways to win this election, to use the budget and your tax dollars to win this election, to use policies to win this election by hook or by crook. And I've told you, even last week, before this article in the New York Post, which I'm going to get to, I told you that this man is doing what he's doing because he's desperate to hold on to power. And that's what he is. Desperate to hold on to power, and so is his party, and so are the media. They hate this country. And they try and project upon us the nomenclature of radicals and extremists and dangerous and anti-democratic, which defines them. It says here how non-citizens are getting voter registration forms across the U.S. and how Republicans are trying to stop it. I know you've heard about this today because I distributed it all over the place to friends, to acquaintances, in every media, almost every walk of life. Josh Christensen wrote the piece. Welfare offices and other agencies in 49 U.S. states are providing voter registration forms to migrants without requiring proof of citizenship, leading Republicans and conservatives to call for swift federal action to stop the handouts. Now, the problem with that is they control the bureaucracy. They control the regime. They control the Senate. So how are we going to get swift action for them to stop what they've done and what they're doing? Every state but Arizona, which recently passed a law barring the practice on state but not federal forms, gives applicants for either welfare benefits, driver's licenses, or in some cases mail-in ballots, voter registration forms without demanding proof of citizenship. So there it is. When former Attorney General Barr says there was no evidence of fraud, when state and federal judges say there was no evidence of fraud, when the Supreme Court doesn't take up relevant cases, when the media, of course, say there's no evidence of fraud, this is systemic, ubiquitous fraud that is intended to help one party, the Democrat Party, against another party, the Republican Party. There's currently no requirement on federal voting forms to provide proof of U.S. citizenship, though it is illegal to falsely claim one as a citizen or for a non-citizen to cast a ballot in a federal election. It's also illegal to cross the border without following the law, but that doesn't seem to have stopped almost 20 million people over the last 4 years, has it? But millions of migrants with humanitarian parole, refugee, or asylum status are eligible for benefits that would bring them to the offices where voter registration takes place. That's on purpose, as I've explained before. The National Voter Registration Act, NVRA, of 1993, ordered states to register voters at the Department of Motor Vehicles and agencies where Americans apply for public benefits, and those offices are required by federal law to hand over the registration forms along with the application papers. 1993. Who was president? Clinton. I remember, you know who pushed this bill in the Senate? Chris Dodd. Chris Dodd, the motor voter bill. If an applicant attests that they are a U.S. citizen, that is considered valid on its face, and the person is registered to vote. Now, you'll notice the Democrats aren't upset about this. You haven't heard a single Democrat complain about this. You haven't heard a Democrat say, let's join with the Republicans to prevent that. Not one. Because this is a matter of affirmative policy. The House Administration Committee last month approved the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act to require states to receive proof of citizenship when anyone registers to vote by mail at a DMV or a welfare agency office. While Biden and radical progressive Democrats give ISIS and criminals an app to literally schedule their illegal entry, Republicans must fight any chance of illegal voter registration until we can mass deport, says Representative Chip Roy, who introduced the measure, and he told the New York Post. Speaker Johnson, in a statement, said, as President Biden has welcomed millions of illegal aliens through our borders, including sophisticated criminal syndicates and foreign adversaries, it is incumbent upon Congress to implement greater enforcement measures that secure the voter registration process and ensure only American citizens decide the outcome of the American election. So let's look at this. Biden defies a Supreme Court decision and awards billions to those with student loans to buy their votes. Biden issues a secret executive order, secret, to all the departments and agencies to use every tool and instrumentality they have to register voters in the areas where they are demographically beneficial to the Democrat Party. That's still going on. And, of course, the border is wide, wide open to achieve two purposes, really three. One, so when, quote-unquote, people are counted, the Democrats have more House seats than the Republicans under the census. Not citizens counted, people counted. Pretty swift, huh? Number two, obviously, to register as many illegal aliens as possible to vote. That's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. And the word spreads fast among various aliens and so forth. And number three, to permanently change the makeup of the population, the citizenry. You know, I wrote about that many, many years ago at National Review when I used to contribute pieces there as a contributing editor. Long, long time ago. I've been looking for the piece I wrote. I can't find it. And, of course, I came under attack by the Wall Street Journal editorial page. They called me a restrictionist. I said, yes, I am a restrictionist. That's what law and order is all about. Restricting anarchy and chaos and lawlessness. While at the time they were pushing a 5-word amendment to the Constitution, thou shalt have open borders. They never admit that, but you can Google that. It's right there. It's right there. It is undeniable that the current structure makes it possible for illegal immigrants and non-citizens to vote, and the American people have no way of knowing how widespread the problem may be, said Ryan Walker, Executive Vice President at the Heritage Foundation sister group, Heritage Action. The SAVE Act puts all these issues to rest and gives Americans confidence that our elections are decided on a more even playing field. But then they claim that you're against people voting. You're suppressing the vote. You're repressing the vote. That you must be Jim Crow 2.0. Comes out of the mouth of Jim Crow 1.0, Joe Biden. But the fact is, when illegal aliens vote, it destroys the voting system, our franchise, and it cancels out the vote of everybody else. See, the trick is to institutionalize the corruption and the fraud, which is what the Democrats have done, which is why their lawyers are spread out throughout the country litigating in favor of no voter ID, no voter ID. The left-leaning Campaign Legal Center has opposed the SAVE Act as a shameful measure that will undermine trust in the electoral process, dismissing concerns over non-citizen voting, declaring it as not taken place at any meaningful level. Of course it's taken place at a meaningful level. How could it not? See, this is the deal. They want us to prove a negative. We're not in charge of this system. If you can register to vote without voter ID, how the hell are we going to ever find you? And how is a citizen going to find? How is a litigant going to find out? There's no fraud. How did you find fraud? Well, I don't know. How did Biden get 80 million votes? It's a fabrication being peddled for personal political gain by leaders who should know better, said Campaign Legal Center Executive Director Adiv Nodi in a statement as the House administration can be prepared to consider the SAVE Act. But federal prosecutions, state investigations, and audits have shown in recent years that thousands of non-citizens are being registered. Ooh, there is proof. And you know what? It's the tip of the iceberg. It's the tip of the iceberg. When the door is wide open and people are flocking in, you're not going to catch them all. As a matter of fact, you're going to catch a small fraction. In Georgia, one of several battleground states that delivered Biden his victory in 2020 election, left-wing voter groups sued Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger earlier this year for trying to implement citizenship verification methods. See, it's only Democrats on the left who do this. Hundreds of non-Americans have since been caught after casting ballots in races ranging from the local presidential and subsequently purged from voter rolls. That's the other thing. Landmark Legal Foundation, among others, is challenging states to purge their rolls, which they're required to do under federal law. In blue states, they refuse to do it.